I take a look at that diagram right there, that's lower cross syndrome. It's a pattern of 4 sections of muscles surrounding that lumbo-pelvic hip complex right in there, that good stuff right there. And basically, talking to athletes and some issues that I've had myself, this pattern fits into a lot of the issues that people are having with lower back pain. I don't diagnose anything, I don't cure anything, I just listen to what they have to say, and a lot of times it fits the mold with what's going on in that picture there. So 2 of my top questions would be, does that low back hurt first thing in the morning? And does it kind of loosen up as you get going? That kind of is a good indicator that the hip flexors are too tight, and overnight that pelvis is getting pulled downward in the front and it's coming up in the backside, creating a little traffic jam in your lower back. So that's one area I like to sort of investigate a little bit. And then the second question would be, hey, do your hamstrings feel tight? And if they are kind of nodding their head in there, and I say, and have you been stretching your hamstrings? And they say, oh yeah, for years. Then I kind of point out, well, if you've been stretching your hamstrings a whole bunch and it's not helping out, maybe we should do something different. So that's sort of like a tough concept to wrap your mind around, is because your hamstrings feel tight. But the reason why a lot of people's hamstrings feel tight is because when that pelvis starts tilting, it's going to draw up that tissue in the backside, and the hamstrings are going to be tight. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are short. They're actually elongated. They're doing a great job of just maintaining tension. They're fighting against that pelvic tilt that you might have going on. So I picked that up from the Arizona Diamondbacks close to a decade ago. I went in, I was working with them and just doing some observation and things like that. And they said that we're not stretching any of our players' hamstrings. We're not doing direct static stretching with any of them, because all the baseball players are taller individuals. Taller individuals, when they sit down in normal people, furniture, and environments, they're just taller, their knees are going to be higher, their hip flexors are going to shorten, they're going to be more prone to this lower cross syndrome, right? So what we end up with is weak abs, weak glutes, and that's one of your crosses right there. And we end up with short and unhappy lower back and short and unhappy hip flexors. And so I brought this bench over, and I want to do one thing for each of those spaces to just try and nudge that lower cross syndrome in the right direction. So we'll start out with the couch stretch, just the hip flexor stretch. You just put one foot up and elevate right there. And so what I've got going on right there is a big quad and hip flexor stretch. I might squeeze that glute a little bit extra if I'm not feeling it, if I need to open it up a little bit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep a timing device on me, and I gotta do a 2-minute hold, right? So 2-minute hold when you want your resting tissue length to change, right? So I'm stealing and regurgitating a lot of this from Dr. Starrett. He's a physical therapist. He's awesome. Picked up a lot of good stuff from him. So I'll be sure to link to him. And there's a picture of his book, The Supple Leopard, as well as Desk Bound later on in this. So I do my 2-minute hold there. Okay, there's my hip flexor stretch, right? What else do I need to take care of? I need to take care of weak abs. So think about a plank. We can do a plank up on the table, and we're not just holding a plank just to hold it. I'm not trying to set a world record, which is like people are doing it for like 8 hours or something weird like that. Even a 20-second plank, really, really active. You say tight belly, tight booty, and elbows to toes, toes to elbows. I'm pulling this bench towards me. I'm trying to get it to pop a wheelie like that, right? That'll get those abs fired up. So what have we done now? We stretched our hip flexor, we strengthen our abs. Now let's strengthen that booty, right? How about some hip thrusts right there, right? That's easy enough, right? Get our glute bridges in there. So many other exercises will work great for those that glute work. If you're looking for extra ideas, look up Brett Contreras, Dr. Brett Contreras, the glute guy. And last but not least, we got to do something for that lower back. So half kneeling position again. Whatever knee is out front, my opposite hand is gonna grab onto it. I'm gonna take a big breath. I'm gonna rotate back behind me. If I'm mobile enough, I might find something that I can hang on to. And I might take a few more breaths. I wanna create that rotation in my thoracic spine there and encourage that motion there, and some deep breathing will help stretch things from the inside out. So definitely encourage that breathing, helps you relax. We never want to do a stretch. If you look at it like an intensity scale, we never want to do a stretch of more than a 7 out of 10. More is not more intense is not going to get the job done faster. In fact, we can irritate that tissue or cause new strains in that space. So I kind of like a 7 out of 10, hold it steady and kind of experiment with that. So that's lower cross syndrome. There's 4 ideas, an idea for each one of those quadrants to just kind of clean it up a little bit. And I've been using that for a few years and it seems to help a lot. Good luck. One of the major influences I have when I'm trying to help myself help my own back or help out an athlete with some irritated lower back pain, and non-diagnosed, don't know exactly what's going on down there, but just want to help stabilize the area and help the tissues calm down and kind of get out of pain, would be Dr. Stu McGill, particularly with his recent book, The Gift of Injury, or most recent, should I say. So that Gift of Injury text, also authored by Brian Carroll, a very successful powerlifter. His story goes that he got hurt, was having trouble competing and just being in general good health. He saw Dr. Stu McGill's advice and they kind of worked on him and healed him up and helped him be successful. So we're trying to steal those principles to help us out as well. And 2 ideas would be: 1, don't pick the scab. And what Dr. McGill means by that, don't pick the scab. When that back is hurting, try to avoid like hyperextending on a foam row or doing like a cobra stretch and really like trying to like adjust your own back and pop it. So we've all had that itchy scab where you pick at it and it bleeds and you restart the healing process. So he says, don't pick the scab with your spine. When you're hurting, just try to leave it alone and let it calm down on its own. Not as much like self-adjustment and things like that. And another note would be to maintain a neutral spine as often as you can. So quite a few times I've talked to big, strong individuals who can go into the gym, load up barbells, and do great lifts with it, but then they're at home picking up dirty laundry and they tweak their back like that. So just to be conscious, especially if you have a history of back pain or you're in pain at the moment, just try to slow things down and try to maintain a neutral posture at all times, or at least as often as you can. Beyond those 2 principles, Dr. McGill has the McGill 3 for us, so that's what I want to go over now. McGill 3, we're going to go over the bird dog, the 45-degree side plank, and the McGill crunch. Let's go bird dog first. On that bird dog, just start out with the quadruped position. We're going to go opposite limbs, elevate. And what I'm trying to do is I am trying to take that spine angle, and my limbs are just an extension of that angle. What I did for a long time, and what I see a lot of other coaches doing and athletes doing, is they pretend or they assume that their spine is horizontal and they want their limbs to come up and be horizontal. But if I come up and send my leg to that horizontal position, you see how I get that extra curve in my lower back? What I'm actually doing is I'm leaving neutral position there. I'm leaving neutral posture. So that's something we want to watch out for. So your bird dogs, I would do all my reps on one side before I switch the other. If you start switching every time, it just kind of gets a little silly. So all your reps on one side before you switch it over. That will give you the ability to, if you're really hurting, maybe you can only do a couple reps on that side before you need to switch. And then you can build up as you go. So Dr. McGill wants us to use these motions when we're in pain and then elevate away from them and advance away from them when able. So let's say you're hurting or you're just deconditioned. You can start out with a handful per side and do a few sets like that, mix them with these other motions that we're going to go over. And then once you're feeling better or you're more conditioned, crank your reps up, maybe find a way to resist it or Take shorter breaks in between your sets, things like that. Okay, motion number 2 is gonna be the 45-degree side plank. Let's see if we can do this one right here. There we go. So my toes are on the ground, my heels are not on the ground, they're at that 45-degree angle, and then my torso is also at kind of that 45-degree angle. My top hand is on my bottom shoulder, and just from the side, right there, and just to hold it. And again, that's one that you can count by breaths or by seconds, and you just even it up on both sides. Start where you're able. There are regressions to that, but I would advise trying to start in that position. If you're unable to start there, reach out to me or look up some of Dr. McGill's work and look at some of your regressions. A simple one would be to just maybe do some side plank work from the knees. That'd be an easy one. Or just to go up and take a little pause and drop back down, things like that. Our third motion is going to be the McGill crunch. And Dr. McGill has done research on crunches, and what he's found is that repetitive flexion and extension of the spine, those vertebrae in the spine, over time that doesn't do us a whole lot of favors with the tissues in the spine, the discs. And so he tries to avoid that a little bit, but he does have us do a special crunch variation that actually nurtures a neutral spine. So we all have a little bit of an S curve in our spine. And what he has us do is put our hands in our lower back. We lay back, one leg out, one leg bent. So bottom position here, top position. I'm gonna crunch up right there. And all I'm trying to do is touch the bottom of my rib cage to my pelvis or to my belt line. And the reason my hands are in my lower back is to prevent that spine from crunching downwards. So I'm going to maintain a neutral spine in that lumbar spine area. And a couple of other tips are to lift the elbows up. That helps prevent you from cheating on purpose or on accident, from cheating on those elbows. So you're just right there. And you can count for time, but I really like doing breath work while we're in there. So you're activating that belly, and then breathing in and out of that belly with your abdominal muscles as well while you're in there. So find a way to, and try to keep that neck neutral as well. So find a way to get started on those motions, that final McGill crunch. If you're doing it by breaths, maybe start with a handful of breaths on each side. You lay back down, you kind of catch your breath in between before you switch legs and even it up on the other side. That's the McGill 3. Those are some methods that I use when I have athletes or I myself have an irritated lower back and I'm just trying to get out of pain, or I'm just trying to prevent lower back pain. I will use those movements with healthy athletes who don't have lower back pain because I believe in them, and I think that they're going to be great for preventing low back flare-ups. All right, another back hack for you. I kind of got from another book from Dr. Starrett. He's a physical therapist. He's awesome. It's desk bound, and it kind of talks about how terrible sitting down all day is for us, particularly for my purposes as it regards to low back pain, but also has like long-term health implications and other issues like that. So. But it's definitely going to be a part of your low back pain prevention protocol, would be to spend less time sitting down. So just a couple things to keep in mind. One would be, think about trying to get your keyboard so that your elbows are about 90 degrees, pretty neutral position. Just having it just a hair lower, I'm able to kind of let my arms float above and just type on my keyboard real easy. I've got my screen around 30 inches away from my face. So I'm not getting weird eye strain from having it too close, and I don't have to squint too much to see what's on it. So I've got my screen in place so my neck and spine can be in a pretty good position. My keyboard is in a pretty good position. Having a box or a soccer ball nearby to promote fidgeting, because we're supposed to be moving around. We're not designed to just
go comatose and just be still for several hours at a time. So Dr. Starrett suggests and recommends having something to fidget with. You don't want to be too conscious of it, just something to drive a little bit of movement. But that's the stand-up desk.